just when you thought that, Mike Adams at Natural News just couldn't get any more zany and kooky, he literally has published this today on the 11th of January. The article, the headline is, "In just 10 days, the radical left will attempt to overthrow the US government. Here's why they will fail." According to multiple sources, of course, we'll never know who these sources are because they don't exist, that have reached out to me, including a individual who has infiltrated left-wing revolutionary groups in California. The radical left has convinced itself that it has some significant chance of pulling off some variation of an uprising / occupy / revolution coup operation on Inauguration Day. So, what a load of bull. This is Mike Adams trying to buy into the hype that a lot of these, ridiculous conspiracy theories are trying to pump at the moment. And you know what this is going to cause? I can see it already. There will be now, I can guarantee, on Inauguration Day, there will be armed right-wing groups turn up to Inauguration Day to defend Donald Trump from supposed left-wing assassins and the supposed revolution that they are planning. So Mike continues, and as he says, it is supposed to start as protests, then morph into riots, then crescendo in a kind of mad rush to occupy federal buildings, and then somehow declare some left-wing commie nutjob to be the legitimate president. That's not how coups work. For coups to actually work, and for any successful coup to work, you not only have to control, civilian officers, but you also have to control military establishments as well. Because if you don't control the military, then the government, the ruling then government, will then basically just order in the troops, or they'll order in the cops to, put a stop to it. Of course, Mike Adams doesn't care about that. He's more about trying to incite fear, which this is. Another source has told me in a recent interview with some elements of the radical left are even planning on setting off bombs to maximize chaos, occupy emergency responders, and even send some federal officers home in body bags. So why has Mike Adams then not reported these people to the police, or to the feds, as it would be since in America? Because that is a serious crime, and if he does have that actual information, then he should be handing it over to the police and not broadcasting it on his website. Mentally ill leftists, a term now that seems increasingly redundant, are even fantasizing over an Inauguration Day purge, inspired by the low-budget Hollywood film The Purge. The film proposes that for one day a year, every act is legal and can be carried out without consequences, including murder, rape, looting, arson, and assault. A recent installment of the film series was called Purge Election Day, is serving as a template for violent leftards who are so detached from the reality they actually believe that January 20th is a purge day where a person can commit any act of violence they want. No, they are not going around saying that. Because if you did, he'd have a photo in this article of them proving it, but of course they don't. I am here to tell you that in my analysis they are going to fail miserably. it doesn't mean they won't harm or even kill some people along the way. But of course, you know, a bit of fear goes a long way for Mike and Natural News. But they won't succeed in overthrowing the government or stop the swearing in of President Trump. Why? Because there will be roughly 10,000 troops on the scene that day, encompassing roughly 1,000 US Marines, 5,000 National Guard troops, 3,000 federal officers, and at least plus 1,000 DC cops. So, why try anything then if it's going to be so heavily, you know, guarded on that day? It just wouldn't make sense unless you're trying to go with a lot of what the right-wing press outlets are saying. And just recently uncovered today that there was someone from the Veritas project trying to get leftists on film, just like they did with Acorn and Planned Parenthood, to get them on film saying that they'll cause a riot and then release it to the press and then, you know, not release the rest of the footage. Now, luckily, they were caught in a counter-sting operation, so we know this is true. So the mistake the deranged left is making is that all of this is failing to remember that in nearly every successful communist uprising in history of the world, the communists had most of the guns. But America's radical left are afraid of guns. If they know that, Mike, which if they're communists as you claim they are, and they are, say, taking a pattern off, you know, communist uprisings, then maybe they would buy guns, like you can very easily in America. But the left's radical leftists are afraid of guns, and the real firepower, it turns out, is in the hands of the military, the feds, and the police officers, which has been my response to the right-wing conspiracy theorists like you, Mike, who have been saying for all of pretty much Obama's term that we need to rise up and overthrow him and have this glorious revolution. It's amazing now when the shoe's on the other foot how the narrative now miraculously now changes, and this isn't the only person changing the narrative. Alex Jones for the past couple of days has been singing the praises of Trump and also warning against the fact that Trump might get brainwashed. But of course, you know, Jones is worried about the fish people. But of course, that's just Alex Jones. And millions of pro-Second Amendment citizens who are willing to do their part to defend the Republic if necessary. People who have been claiming that they need to overthrow Obama for the past number of years. As I've said just now. To explain all this, including the hilarity of the deranged left, I recorded a 40-minute podcast that covers my full analysis. What my sources have told me is going to happen, yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen. Why the uprising failed, and why I believe 1,000 US Marines on their own could easily defeat 100,000 zombie leftards bull rushing the Capitol building. So, Mike covering his ass there. Because I'm sure if nothing happens, which nothing will happen, there'll be a protest, I'm sure there will be. But nothing major will happen. And of course, if it does, I'm sure Natural News or all the other conspiracy sources, I'm sure, will have this article saying we've had sources in the FBI or police saying that they stopped some plot to assassinate Trump on Inauguration Day. Calling it now when that happens. So yeah, more continuing madness from Natural News.